Gods of chaos don't just rule by fear. They rule by blood, plague, pain, and firepower. In the endless war of the 41st millennium, weapons are more than tools. They're divine instruments of will. And for the chaos gods, each weapon reflects their twisted essence. Khorne's rage, Nurgle's rot, Slaaneish's excess, Tzeentch's madness. These aren't just blades and guns, they are symbols of damnation. Today, we dive deep into the heart of the Eye of Terror and drag out the deadliest toys of the gods themselves. From blood-drenched axes to disease-ridden staves, we're ranking the favorite weapons of the ruinous powers. Because in this universe, power isn't just taken, it's wielded. We've set ourselves a new battle, reaching 1,000 subscribers before the year ends. Join the ranks for new Warhammer stories every week. Alright, moving on to the 4 ruinous powers themselves. Before we can rank their favorite weapons, we need to understand the gods who forged them, shaped them, and in many ways, are them. First, there is Khorne, the blood god, war incarnate. He abhors weakness, despises sorcery, and demands only one offering, skulls for his throne. Then comes Nurgle, the lord of decay. He embraces despair and entropy with a grotesque kind of love, spreading disease not as punishment, but as a gift. Slaanesh, the dark prince, promises perfection through excess, sensation, and the collapse of all restraint. And finally, Tzeentch, the architect of fate, whose weapons are lies, whose battles are plans within plans. Of all the gods, none wear their weapon like a crown, quite the way Khorne does. To understand his fury, you only need to witness what he chooses to strike with. It doesn't whisper, it doesn't corrupt, it just kills. Khorne's favored instrument of war is the Axe of Khorne, a savage relic born of molten hate and endless war. These axes are forged in the blood pits of demon worlds, each one soaked in the essence of 1,000 battles. No two are the same, yet all share a single sacred purpose: to harvest skulls. The most feared among them is Gorechild, once wielded by the Primarch Angren, and now in the hands of Karn, the Betrayer. It doesn't just cut, it howls, driving its bearer into a frenzy where reason dies and only murder remains. This is why Khorne favors it. There's no deceit in its purpose, no sorcery clouding its edge, just brutal, blood-soaked truth. Because in Khorne's world, loyalty is proven not through words or worship, but through the endless offering of skulls. And the axe? It never stops demanding. After Khorne's brutal finality, we descend into something far more patient and far more horrifying. It doesn't kill fast, it kills forever. Nurgle's favorite weapon isn't a blade or a bomb, it's the Plague Flail, a rusted, bloated thing, dripping with filth and disease. And in true Nurgle fashion, it's not just the damage that matters, it's the infection. Wielded by champions like Typhus, the herald of Nurgle, the Plague Flail is often infused with the warp-borne disease known as the Destroyer Hive, a sentient swarm of demon plague flies that burst from the weapon's head with every strike. One hit doesn't just maim, it sows decay, armor melts, organs liquefy, and even the strongest Astartes fall into bloated, screaming ruin. But it's not about pain. Not really. Nurgle's joy lies in the gift of entropy. The Plague Flail turns war into a slow, rotting celebration. A reminder that resistance is pointless, that everything, no matter how strong, will bloat, burst, and be reborn in Papa Nurgle's embrace. Why does Nurgle favor it? Because unlike Khorne's axe, this weapon doesn't end life. It transforms it into something worse. To Nurgle, every strike is a blessing, and the Plague Flail, his most generous tool. If Nurgle's weapon is slow and suffocating, then what comes next is something far more intimate and far more seductive. It cuts so fine, you won't know you're dying until you beg for more. Slaaneish's favorite weapon is the Lash of Torment, a living whip of psycho-reactive material that twists with every thought and desire of its wielder. It doesn't just lash out, it dances, and when it strikes, it doesn't tear, it thrills. Wielded by the Dark Prince's elite champions, like Lucius the Eternal, these whips ripple with exquisite energy, delivering both agony and ecstasy in the same stroke. The lash can flay a soul as easily as it flays flesh, leaving victims broken, not just physically, but emotionally, longing for more pain, more touch, more sensation. The lash is a manifestation of everything Slaanesh adores: control, perfection, and the blurring of every limit. It's elegant, seductive, and horrifying. In battle, it weaves between strikes, wraps around weapons, pulls enemies close, and then offers them a final, intimate end. Why does Slaanesh favor it? because the lash doesn't just kill, it performs. And as the warp shimmer of excess overwhelms reason and the victim's scream turns into a sigh, only one truth remains. Death by Slaanesh is a masterpiece. Where Slaanesh's weapon dances with deadly grace, the next doesn't follow any rhythm at all, because Tzeentch doesn't play by rules. He rewrites them. You thought it was a spell. It was a weapon. You thought it was a gift. It was a curse. Tzeentch's favorite weapon isn't forged. It's woven from pure warp sorcery, known as the Warpfire Staff. This weapon is more conduit than club. It channels raw chaos, mutation, and madness into focused destruction. Wielded by sorcerers like Ahriman of the Thousand Suns, the Warpfire Staff allows its bearer to bend reality like glass. It can unleash blue and pink flames, unholy fire that doesn't burn the body, but the soul. Victims scream as their forms twist, melt, or transform into mewling spawn. There is no physical logic to it. That's the point. The staff reflects Tzeentch's domain perfectly. Unpredictability, schemes, and power hidden in layers. One moment it's casting a firestorm, the next it's rewriting the rules of gravity. You never know if it's a weapon, a spell, or both. Why does Tzeentch favor it? Because it's not just a weapon. It's a lie, a shifting, impossible thing that promises power and delivers ruin. It doesn't strike once. It ripples through timelines, unraveling fate itself. And when the flames die down, you realize you were never fighting a weapon. You were fighting a god's idea. And just when you think you've seen the worst the chaos gods can offer individually, there's what happens when they act together. When the gods act together, reality breaks. While each god has their weapon of choice, chaos undivided, the unity of all four brings forth relics beyond comprehension. Chief among them is the Blade of Shadows, a demonic sword rumored to be forged from the essence of the gods' shared hatred for order itself. This weapon doesn't obey rules. It phase shifts, breaks psyker minds, and drinks the warp with every kill. Few can wield it without being consumed. Fewer still survive its whispers. Chaos. Undivided doesn't choose a weapon for power. It chooses a weapon to remind reality who's in charge. When it comes to which chaos god wields the deadliest weapon, the answer isn't just about raw power. It's about what each weapon means. Slaanesh's Lash of Torment may be beautiful and devastating in close combat, but its elegance is also its limit. Too refined for the chaos of war. Nurgle's Plague. Flail overwhelms through slow, inevitable decay, yet lacks the immediate force to shift a battle's tide. Tzeentch's Warpfire Staff, unpredictable and reality warping, is terrifying, but depends on the cunning of its wielder. And at the top stands Khorne's axe. Gorechild, primal, direct, and unstoppable. In the end, no weapon speaks louder than the one that simply kills everything in its path. But ranking them is one thing. Understanding what they actually do to the galaxy is another. These weapons aren't just relics or tools. They shape entire campaigns, warp destinies, and stain sectors with legend. When Gorechild is swung, worlds burn. When the Plague Flail strikes, systems rot from within. The Lash leaves broken minds and loyal traitors in its wake. And the Warpfire Staff, it rewrites battles before they begin. Each weapon is a reflection of its god's will, not just feared, but worshipped by cults, demon hosts, and corrupted champions across the stars. To face one of them is to face the full weight of the warp. And in this galaxy, that weight crushes everything. Because these weapons don't just change battles, they change everything they touch. And so, as we step back from the blood, the rot, the madness, and the fire, only one truth remains worth remembering. 4 gods, 4 weapons, infinite damnation. Each blade, flail, lash, or staff is more than steel. It's divine intent made deadly. In the 41st millennium, you don't just fight chaos, you fight its wrath, disease, desire, and madness.